Hey guys, welcome back. It's Boris. I'm here with my co-host Yuri. Go ahead, Yuri.
What's up, guys?
That's it.
Dude.
We have our guest here today, Michael. Very excited to have him on today.
Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. If you want to introduce yourself and let people know who you are and what you do.
Yeah, Michael McGovern, local here to Columbus, Ohio. Real estate investor, entrepreneur, grinder, you know, a little bit of everything.
All the above.
Yeah.
I feel that. Damn, I've been looking forward to having you on here, man. Can you outline like what's your whole goal and what you do? And you talked about a little bit about self development and all that. We'll get into that as well. But what can you just let people know like who you are in like a 30-second like introduction?
Yeah. So for me, I grew up Wheeling, West Virginia. Athlete, sports, big into all that. After high school, I moved to Boston. I lived up there for 3 years, played junior hockey. After that, went down to Huntsville, Alabama, tried to play some pro hockey. Things didn't work out for me. Moved back home. Was a coal miner for a while. Worked in a gas plant for a while, for about 5 or 6 years. Needed out, needed some change. Chose Columbus, by the grace of God. It's just funny, things happen for you. And ended up here. And, I've been here for, it'll be 5 years now in December. And kind of just got into real estate. I started out doing door-to-door sales when I first got here. Then I got into cemetery sales, and then that led me into real estate. And then once I kind of found real estate, man, it was like, I found out wholesaling. I did a wholesale deal that made me, I think it was like 5 or 10 grand, and I was like, I quit my job.
You got hooked.
Yeah,
huh?
I was like, I'm done. I just got to hustle now, and quit my job and jumped all in on the real estate thing. And now I've been doing it for about 2 years.
Nice. You're crushing it, dude. What? Can you go back a little bit? You said cemetery sales?
Yeah.
What the hell is that?
Yeah, so most people are like, that's crazy. You sell graves, but that's what I did. So when I got up here, started out doing the door-to-door stuff. I moved here in December of like 2017, and no one really wants to be knocking doors in December. It's cold, and I never did any sales job before. So I had done that for about 3 or 4 months. Actually had some pretty good success in it. But it was funny because I was 20, 25, 26. And, I'm working with a bunch of like 17, 18-year-olds. Like, you know what I mean? It was like my ego was cut in half at that point. And I was just like, I got to get out of this. I don't want to be knocking doors. A guy that I actually went to school with back in the day, back in Wheeling, was working for a company selling in the cemetery space. And, he reached out to me. He's like, hey, man, like, they're hiring, like, all over the country. Like, you should look into it. Like, I'm actually making pretty good money in it. I'm like, okay, no one was really dying to get into the cemetery sales. So, it was an easy kind of transition in. I went and they actually happened to be hiring out of one downtown in Green Lawn Cemetery. So, if you're familiar with downtown Columbus. And I went down, interviewed, and the guy was like, well, I'll tell you, be honest with you, not a lot of people are, here to get this job. So, it's pretty much open. If you want it, you get it. And I started into that. And like within my first month, I was like a top sales rep, like within our whole structure of like that side, like East Coast side.
Yeah.
Doing really well. And then from there, it went into within like 6-7 months, I was into management. And then I was running 3 parks in Dayton, and I had 1 in Columbus. And I was there for it was about 2 years, pretty much the whole time that I had been here at that point. And then from there was like, that's when I found real estate and got into that. But yeah, cemetery sales is different, man.
Yeah. It's different. I've never heard of that in my life.
Yeah.
Was it mostly commissioned?
Yeah, it was all commission. Yeah, it was all commission. There's a lot of money in it, though, right? I mean, you got to think anything that people buy things through insurance and can, buy on credit, they juice it up, right? So it was one of those things. Like, it was hard for me because I could see these families that would come in that were like broken, and now I got to be asking them for money. And a lot of times I got a normal package to bury somebody just on the cemetery side, like not on the funeral side. So you're just talking grave plot, headstone, the vault that the casket would go into, and like kind of just the facilitation of that, 8 to 10 grand.
Dang.
Yeah. And, so when you got to ask a family for that, it's tough, right? But it really crafted my sales experience, right? It kind of showed me like what creating relationships and sales could do. And I kind of credit that all to the real estate side of things, like getting into all of that because, there I'd have to sit with a family that's upset. They're crying, and then they're fighting, and really being able to show them the value of like what we're doing to take care of them. Because they have like kind of at need and pre need, right? So at need would be like when somebody passes, and then you take care of things then. So once I went through a lot of those, I'm like, okay, like now I understand the push to get people to like pre-plan, right? So when I would get people in, like, I'm like, listen, I see people all the time come in here, and you don't want to be one of those people, right? It's the worst thing to have to come here and make a decision like this on one of the worst days of your life, potentially, right? You might have lost your father, your brother, your wife, whatever it might be. And people are always like, oh, man, like, I don't care. Like, the guys come in, like, roll me over, kick me over a hill. I don't care about what you do with my body. That's where we spin it from the sales side. I'm like, nah, man, I get that, but this ain't for you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're gone. We ain't even talking about you no more. Like, this is for your kids and your grandkids and your wife, that they can go somewhere and visit your grave and actually see you and spend that time with you, right? Like, so it's kind of, you learn how to cultivate it a little bit and create relationships.
It's an interesting way to learn sales.
Yeah. Kind of between that and door to door, I learned quick.
Dang. That's good, man. At least you're in real estate now. Something not as sad.
Not as sad, more stressful. Not as sad.
Yeah. No, 100%, man. So what's your main goal? You were talking about earlier with you now have a cash flowing property, and so what's your main intent with this Columbus market?
Yeah, so for me, kind of like we were discussing, right now, like our biggest driver is the scaling out our portfolio. We're at 4 units right now. We started buying back in June, so we're buying about 1 a month right now. Our goal is to have 5 before the first of the year, and then once we crest that, so the investors that I'm working with, they gave me access to about $500,000. So for me, I've got all that out right now. And pretty much like once the first of the year comes, it's kind of flushing that through and then just kind of getting a process to be able to take these things down to where we're doing, 2-3 deals a month. The goal is to get that to a 16 property portfolio, within the next, I'm trying to do it within the next 9 months, is the goal here, which I don't really see that being an issue. It's just kind of like lining out the process of it, right? Like the first couple that you do are kind of rough because you're talking bank statements, financing, because all the bottlenecks on the backside, the refinance side, like taking the deal down and finding the deal isn't as tough as being able to get it refinanced, get the money back out of it as fast as possible. And that's why we kind of go with the delayed financing thing, like I was telling you, because they can do that. Most lenders will have a seasoning period to where they need to do at least like 6 months seasoning before you can like refinance out. Where with delayed financing, I can refinance out within 15 days of completing a project. So I can get the investment out of it, and just keep moving. So
these are all long term.
Buy and hold. Yep. Place, right? The goal, because what I have with the investors that I'm working with is to scale this thing to where we want to get it to in the next, like I said, 9 months. And then at that point, basically just sit on it, pull a blanket loan on it, use that capital to then reinvest and maybe do the same thing again. We try to keep it to a threshold of about $2.5 million is what we're focusing on, like per portfolio. Not necessarily is there like a reason and a why to it. One of the biggest reasons is if you're a business person and you want to purchase a cash flowing entity, it's a lot easier to come up with $2.5 million than it is for $10 million.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why we kind of break it down like that, and it just makes it more viable.
100%. And you guys are focusing on, you said the 3-bed, 1-bath.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do 3-bed, 1-bath, ranch, Cape Cod, square boxes. It's like a bunch of little apartment units.
Yeah. So you know what to expect every single time, huh?
Yeah. Every time. Like I was telling you, I know that we can rehab these things for $10 to $15 a square foot. We're in and out of them for. My biggest project yet, as these ones go, or as one we're working on right now, it'll be about a $23,000 rehab. And I did new roof, new gutters, soffit fascia, garage, paint the interior, paint the exterior, new kitchen, bath, painted the whole entire house and floors. And I got it done for $25,000.
That's crazy.
23, yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's so convenient with those 1,000+ square foot. Oh,
right, and that's where, it's not sexy.
Yeah.
Right, and that's what happens is like when you get into this business, everybody wants sexy. Like they want to see the, big flips and, Rolls Royces and all the cool shit. And obviously we all want that, but it's success swings singles. Right. And like, that's a big thing, man. Like we're always trying to hit a slam dunk, right? Everybody wants to, make that $50,000, rehab or sell or whatever it is. And obviously like I want that too, but you got to be in the game. You got to be moving. You got to be building processes to get yourself to that point.
100%.
So you got to be willing to just get by. Like, I'm okay if I'm all in at 80% and I cash out, refi, and I don't make $1 off of it because now I'm cash flowing. Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's where people don't want. They want to do this burr method and, they want to pull 25, 30 grand out of it. Well, in a real estate market like we're in today, I'm not necessarily saying that you can't do it, but
it's a lot harder.
It's hard, yeah. And it's like if you're going to wait for that every time, you're going to be sitting for a while.
And missing out on so many deals.
Right. And like you were saying, man, like getting into the flip that you're working on, like you got to learn it, man. And if you're not out there learning it, like you can't just sit and wait for the perfect one to come by, because then when it does, you're probably going to mess it up because you don't know what you're doing,
Dude, no, flipping,
How many deals did it take for you to figure out how to hack the process?
I think in the 2 years that I've been in it, I've done about 25 deals. So about 25 deals. Yeah. It took a while, and I think that the big thing was just refining that process and getting away from like the shiny object syndrome, right? Yeah. Because in this business, we all know like there's so many things you can do. Right, you can wholesale, you can be an agent, you can fix and flip, you can buy and hold, you can you can Airbnb, right? Yeah. There's so many things that you can do. And when you start seeing it all and you meet people and you hear what this person's doing and that person's doing, you think you're missing out on something or they're getting a step ahead. And, we're always trying to do all these things and we do a whole lot of like half-ass, right? So I think it's kind of dialing it back. And that's where I just had to get laser focused on like my only goal is to scale this thing to X. And then when I get there, I'll pivot and change. And if, flips or things come along the way, I'll take that. But I'm not going out wasting my energy looking, because a lot of times we'll evaluate a deal and we do anything we can to make it a deal. Yeah. Right? Like we're like, man, like I could try this, or like maybe it'll work here. And if I flip it, and like you'll spend 3 days on trying to make a deal work, when it's like, hey, it just don't work. Yeah. Right? And that's what I've done now. It's like I know that if it's in that, 110 grand or less, I can buy it, right? I don't have to like see it at this point. Like I know like it can't be that jacked up. As long as it's like standing with a roof over it, I can probably make it work.
Do you guys make offers on homes that you narrow down the niche and the area? Do you guys ever make like blind offers on homes?
Yeah, I mean, I just closed on one on Friday last week that the first time I saw the inside of it was Friday when we closed on it.
Really?
Yeah. Actually, Saturday when I got inside. I didn't go and see it on Friday. I picked up the keys on Saturday and went and looked at it.
So do you have someone walk the home or like what if
Yeah, so I mean, we'll try to get an inspector out there and just let them go take pictures and kind of just take their word for it. That's why you got to rely on like a good inspection company. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I focus on if I can't make it out there. And that's where, to scale a business, like you can't be the one running to every property. 100%. And it's like this. It's kind of that threshold of like we feel like we got to be involved in everything, and you don't. You know what I mean? Like if you want to be able to actually build a business, you gotta pull yourself out of it.
No, that's the hardest thing to do.
It's the hardest thing to do,
especially for people like us who love the freaking control. It's out of our hands, and then like if something's out of our hands, we're like, dude, what's going on?
Right, and usually it gets messed up when it's out of your hands.
100%.
You have to be okay with that. It's like we try to control things and micromanage things and hold it so tight that we drive ourselves crazy. Like I always say that all of my anxiety is usually self-inflicted. Yeah. You know 100%. What I mean? Like I create it all because I'm only getting anxious on things that I can't control necessarily. And that's where, you got to give it up to God sometimes. Like, I'm working hard. I'm doing everything it takes. I'm not, I'm putting the time in, putting the hours in. It's out of my control. And if it's meant to be, it's meant for me,
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah. It's a good way to look at it.
Was there a time in your life when you realized that this was the journey you want to take? Like go from W-2, go from being a regular employee to being self-employed or being commission-based?
Yeah. So for me, the dream was to be a professional hockey player, right? And when that didn't happen, I was like lost for a while. Like I moved back home. Like I said, I was coal mining. I got into the gas plant. It was just like miserable, man. I was working with a bunch of 65-year-olds and I was 20 years old. And, and my life was kind of just like spiraling out of control. Drugs, drinking, women, like you name it. Like I've gone through the ringer on all of it. My family owned an Irish pub. So it was like, it was next to my house. So it was, I kind of just saw when I got away and lived in Boston, like I got to see money. Yeah. And I got to see entrepreneurship, and I got to see all these things that like back home didn't offer me. So that was kind of like, that freed me a little bit. So when I went back home, it was like, I was miserable, right? I was kind of moving through the motions, like making good money. I mean, I was at the plant making $100,000 a year at like 21 years old. So, I mean, I couldn't bitch, but
Can't complain.
Right.
Yeah.
But I was also working 16 hours a day, and, but just miserable. And like, to answer your question, I just felt like there was more to me. Right. I'm like, dude, there's got to be more. Like, I want to inspire people. I love being driven. And it's like, I feel like I was holding myself back from really like breaking through of what I wanted to do. So when I came to Columbus, that was on a whim. Like, me and a couple buddies came up here on a weekend, and, but I knew, to me, I'm a firm believer in like the proximity factor. Right. And I'm like, as long as I can get around the right people, I know I'll find success. Like, 100%. I'll work hard. I got the mindset, it just get me in front of them. And that's kind of what brought me to Columbus. So, like, when I got here and just started, like, grinding and doing that, like, yeah, I was working sales jobs. Yeah, I was doing all these things. But it always in the back of my mind, like, what is it? What I'm looking for something. I'm trying to find it. And then when I came across real estate, it was like, this is it. You know what I mean? And it wasn't so much of, like, I love real estate. I'm obsessed with it. It was like, this is the vehicle that's going to get me to really what I want to do. And I would say real estate is, like, the average man's way of getting wealthy.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you don't have to be smart.
Yeah.
You ain't recreating nothing.
Gotta work.
Right. Too many people want to start up businesses, and it's an ego thing of like, oh, I'm self-made. I created it myself. Like, no, I just want to find what somebody else did and figure out how to do it for me.
Dude, why reinvent the wheel? Like,
It's wide. I mean, that's what biggest things in today's time, right? Like, you shouldn't even be looking to like start businesses right now. Just buy businesses. Right? Like, there's so many baby boomers out there right now that are dying, or, have businesses that they don't want to, their siblings don't want them, or their kids don't want them. And like, they're passing off, and there's so much opportunity right now. Like, right now is like one of the greatest times to be alive.
Yeah.
And like, take advantage of that. Don't try to recreate the wheel. Just jump on something that's already moving.
Yeah, man, that's our goal too. Like, dude, find something that's working and do it even better.
That's it.
You can't lose.
No, you can't.
Yeah, I mean, you really can't. That's crazy, man. Dude, so you sound so passionate about everything you do. What made you have this mindset? That's something we're big about here. But.
Yeah. For me, I it's funny because like I again dial it back to real estate, and you guys can probably attest to this too. It's like real estate's one of those businesses that like just kicks you in the teeth.
Yeah.
And like you gotta be like self-motivated.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lonely times. And I think a lot of it comes from athletics too, like being an athlete, like always being a performer and just having to be at like that high level all the time, that it's a really easy. That's why you see a lot of athletes are successful business people, is because like they got to transition that energy somewhere. And for me, like that's what, real estate was, and knowing that I needed to like kind of recreate myself to be what I needed to be, like to be the person I wanted to be. Like, it took a lot of discipline.
Yeah.
And, it was changing my ways. And it's kind of like once you get so far in on it, like you can't go back, right? You know what I mean? Like, I spent 2 years of just like, I hear you talk about like the cold showers and affirmations and my faith too, right? Like really having that relationship with God, that fires me up, because like I know that everything that I'm doing, like it's not me, you know what I mean? I get, right. There's a higher power that just like, because there's some things that happen, and you're like this. Yeah, I can't do this by myself, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Timing's
it's everything, man. It's everything.
I feel like that's something like everyone struggles to comprehend or like accept in their life. Like I had that struggle this last year. Like I got super good at business. I got super good at like selling real estate. I'm like, and then my ego came out and like, dude, Boris, you're crushing it. Boris, you're doing this. Boris, you're crushing it. And dude, I'm like, I forgot where it all came from, and and then I got humbled real quick.
It'll humble you super fast.
It humbles you so fast, and I'm like, okay, maybe everything does come from God. Everything is like, dude, like it's just a whole different mindset.
Yeah, and I think that it's like you have to constantly, keep that in front of mind, right? Of like, that's why I do get fired up, like. No one likes to work, I guess, but for me, like I love everything that I do. Like coming here and talking to you guys and getting to, share conversation with people that think the same, and just getting to wake up, and the mentors that I have and the people that I'm surrounded with. Like, I don't have a reason to be not fired up every day. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that's what keeps me motivated. And another thing is putting yourself around those people that kind of like put you on a pedestal, right? Like you surround yourself with great people, because like they're not really going to let you fall off if you want to stay friends.
That's right.
Right. Like I know my mentors, things like that. Like if I was, sleeping all day and not pushing it, like they ain't gonna want me around no more.
Yeah.
Right. Like they want me to be around them because they like my attitude and what I'm bringing to the table too. And if I'm not that person, Not saying that, it's just based off of performance, but it is, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I don't want to be around lazy average people.
No, 100%. Dude, 100%. You know?
What's been some of the biggest takeaways, biggest things you've gained for yourself from mentorship and coaching?
Oh, man. First off is learning from somebody else's mistakes, right? I mean, again, too often we try to recreate the wheel. We try to do all these things. And again, it humbles you really fast. And I think, our whole life is by design of being coached, right? Whether it's athletics or school being taught. So our whole life we're learning, we're consuming knowledge from other people. And then we graduate college and it's just like, okay, you've got it all figured out now, go get your job. Yeah. And that's something that I realized with so many people is like they think they don't need it no more. But our whole lives were being taught. So it's like all of a sudden you hit 21 years old and you don't need to be taught nothing no more.
Yeah.
Like you just stunt your own development.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's
a good
that.
point.
Yeah, and learning from them. And it's not just the coaching side, man. It's the resources, right? It's the conversations you have. Like, my mentor, a guy that's literally changed my life, Ryan Nidell. I don't know if you guys know who he is, but he's here in Columbus. And kind of funny how him and I linked up. Like, I was in acquisitions for a company here in Columbus, and I was leaving there and just wasn't happy and just was trying to like find my way. And he didn't work really with people in my position. Like he liked most people that had businesses that were already kind of running, that he would help them out in the coaching side of it and things like that. And but I found him on Instagram, and I'm like a squeaky wheel. So if I find you, like I'm gonna find you, I'm gonna reach out to you, I'm gonna call and do anything I can to get in front of somebody if I want to, And ended up getting on a phone call with him, and we had a conversation, and it was like, I was just like crying, you know what I mean? Like it just like everything kind of just like came out, And it was just like, wow, this was, again, by the grace of God that this like relationship was created. And, he's just like brought me under his wing. Like we have an office together in Dublin, and like he's created the whole business model that I run my business off of. And I mean, like, if it wasn't for him, like I don't know what I would be doing. Like the successes and the being able to get up and keep going every day is really because of him, And like so that's why I'm just so passionate about mentorship and things like that, because I can see how like it literally changes somebody's life.
Yeah. Seems like it'll provide a whole lot of value for you.
Oh man, it's incredible, man, incredible.
Yeah, no, 100%. We believe in the same thing. I mean, a coach for every aspect of life, a fitness coach and stock and whatever. Finance.
You have to.
Yeah.
Because why learn by yourself?
Dude, this is the thing though. We're gonna be always behind.
Yep.
Like we're always gonna be behind, trying to catch up. And what's the point?
And I think a lot of it too is it kind of puts it in perspective for you, right? Like you see social media and you see people that are our age and they're crushing it and they're doing all these things, but social media is a highlight reel a lot of times, right? I mean, not saying that they don't put a lot of things out there, but you see that and it's hard to kind of keep your mindset straight all the time. Like that's where the coaches become so important, right? Because like I can be feeling down and feeling like I'm failing, and you have a conversation with a coach, and a lot of times like where you're at now, they were worse off then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like your coaches are usually 5-10 years ahead of you, wherever you are at, like they were there at one point, and usually like you're further along than they were.
Yeah.
Right? Like I look at Ryan and he's like 37 and I'm 29, right? And he's like, dude, like imagine where you're going to be at when you're 37. You know what I mean? Like just the ground that you're covering so quickly right now, but that's only because coaches expedite that process.
100%. 100%, man. I mean, so you found Ryan, you said, yeah? And did that help motivate you in like different aspects other than business?
Yeah, I mean, it was, when I found him, I kind of got into, meditation side of it, because it's all kind of it all kind of comes together at the same time, right? Like you get into self-development, you get into business, like all these things kind of follow together. And I think a lot of it is like, it forces you to like create that foundation. Like it forces you to create that capacity. And that's what self-development does, right? It's like you have to continuously like be pushing yourself, because business is going to, again, knock you down.
100%.
And so like when I met him, like I got into, everything, the meditation side, psychedelics, like really big on psychedelics, it's like, and it's, again, I mean, people kind of get it twisted with like faith and all that and like psychedelics, and it's kind of a gray area.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, it's almost like when I see that, it shows me that there is a God out there, because you had a hard trip before and you go into some thinking, right? And you come out with some clarity, and like there's a reason. I mean, I don't know. I could go on for days about that, but it just kind of, it just shows you that there's more out there. Like what we're seeing, what we're perceiving it's like 10% of what's actually there.
Yeah. So I remember a long time ago, I used to post like you sitting in front of a little pond at like 6 a.m., whatever, with the journal. What is your morning routine?
So my morning routine, and we're all passionate about morning routine, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of those things where like you've kind of got to create it, go through it, figure out what works for you, but not like beat yourself up about it, right? Like structure's there to get you back on track, not to punish you. Like I think we get it twisted a lot of times where it's like if we don't write our affirmations down and do our cold shower and do this and do that, we like hate ourselves. Right? Like I know there'd be a point in my life I didn't do this. I'm like, oh man, my whole day's ruined.
Yeah.
I didn't get up in time. Like this person's passing me up. But it's like, that's not what it's about, man. It's just about like we're flesh, we're human, man. Like give yourself grace. Be able to like step back and be like, dude, I'm trying. Right? I'm trying. I'm getting better every day. I was better than I was a year ago, And so, but for me, my morning routine is I get up, as soon as I wake up, cold shower. And I do it in the dark, right? I just like leave my light, turn my flashlight on my phone to get my way to the bathroom. So I try not to have like consume a bunch of like lights, in the mornings.
Yeah.
And then it's funny, like it's every morning, I sit there and have a conversation with myself, like standing naked in front of the shower, like, okay, come on, get in the shower. Then I jump in, then it's like just sprinkling on my feet, and I like haven't made the commitment yet. It's like, and then kind of go all in on it. So I do the cold shower, and then from there it's, I'll throw a podcast on in the morning, listen to that, or do my affirmations. Like those are two things that are pretty much set in stone with me. Affirmations and cold shower. And then every night before I go to bed, I just write down what I got to do the next day. Even if I don't do it, like at least it's front of mind of like what the day, because I think that we, especially in our business, like we lose control, right? Like if you can at least control up till like 10 a.m. and then you can control like, 9 p.m. to bedtime, right?
Yeah.
So you have like a gap of about 8 to 10 hours, right, that you can kind of control. Other than that, you've got no control. It's chaos, right? So at least try to have like some structure there. So it's like when I wake up, I'm like, okay, I know I need to do this, this, and this at least. And just try to give myself like 2 or 3 things to like knock out every day. And once I do that, like I'll call it quits for the day. Like we get caught up in thinking we need to stay busy. Yeah. And grinding.
But it's being productive, not busy.
Correct, exactly, right? Like we were saying, like more isn't better, better is better. Do 3 things and complete them and be done for the day. Like don't just keep giving yourself more shit.
Have you figured out what your why is yet?
For me, like dude, it's generational wealth, right? It's being that person that changes the tide. That's what my why is. Like I watched my father go through a lot of things. Like I watched him, my uncle, like my dad had me when he was like 20 years old, and basically, I don't think that should have controlled his life the way that it did, but like he sacrificed his whole life to me. And then when he was, when I was about 15, 16, developed a real bad addiction, and like we had a bar and, we lost that. He went to prison, like just have seen a lot of really tough things happen. He's out now and clean, and it's like and that's another reason I love the self-development, because I'm like, I watched a person who was like a superhero to me get crushed, lose everything, right? And like now is like the guy that I always dreamed he was. You know what I mean? So it's like for me, it's being able to create something that like my family can cherish too, and be able to give him like that rebirth, and be like, dude, like, you feel like a failure, but I was watching you. And even though we had our rough patches, that I'm able to, go back and like really help my family kind of change.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I just asked that question because it's I think that's the only thing that I can do to explain to people why we do what we do, because the majority of the population doesn't understand it or doesn't get it, and they're like, why excuse me, why can't you just settle down, get a job making $80K, $100K a year, just do that for 40, 50 years, retire and go travel. That's their mindset. And most people don't understand why you would want to get more than you need to survive. So the only reason I found to portray the reason is because, having a why that's bigger than ourselves.
Yeah. And, I think a big piece of that too is like, even you look back in like scripture and things like that, like we're made, like God didn't create this world for us to be a bunch of slaves to work in. Like entrepreneurship was very prominent back in the day. You know what I mean? Like it was trading. It was, you create something, you build something, you trade it for something you need or another resource.
It's the backbone of America.
Exactly. And like, so I think that, it's almost a disservice to God to kind of just like float through life and not like push yourself, because as humans we're designed, like in scripture, again, it says that you're not going to work to do work's job. You're doing God's work everywhere you do, right? Yeah. So you always need to be focused on like doing your best, because it's not for, the CEO. You need to go up and wake up every day and do your best for God, because like you're doing his work constantly, whether it's printing papers or selling houses or whatever it is, like do your best and you get rewarded for that, And like I said, I just think it's by kind of just floating through life that you're doing yourself and, a disservice. This world is temporary.
I agree.
Get the most out of it.
I tell people all the time that God didn't put us on here to work a 9 to 5 for 40 years and then retire, and that's it. So
and, a lot of people are happy with that.
Yeah,
it is what it is. Like they're not built like we're built, and that's okay, because you need those people.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, we need to hire somebody. And but like at the same time, like you can't give them, look down on them or be like, think that they're less than or you're better than.
No, I agree 100%.
It's just different, and everybody has different mindsets, and it is what it is. But because I have people back, like my whole family was 9 to 5 workers or 7 to 7, whatever you want to call it, right? And nothing against any of them, but they just don't understand it.
Yeah. Yeah, they truly just can't comprehend. They can't comprehend just working more and take the risk factor as well.
That's the biggest thing.
That's huge. People can't comprehend, like, Boris, why'd you do this? Why'd you do this?
Right.
I'm like, bro, you'll see the fruits of the labor soon.
100%. Well, people get so secure with saying, like, knowing that they got money coming in every month.
Oh, the W-2 factor. Yeah.
Right. They get that, and it's sitting on money and knowing that you have a bank account full of money, and we're just. It's just society. It kind of breeds this idea that you need to have security.
Yeah.
And that's what they want you to think, because they need them.
Yeah.
And that's why the entrepreneurs, like, we kind of see through that, and we're like, this is bullshit. This is not what we're gonna. Yeah, right. Like, this isn't what like for me. If I got 10 grand sitting on me, I'm like, what can I do with it? You know what I mean? Can I buy another coaching program? Can I try this? Can I put it into this? Can I buy some crypto? Can I whatever it is? Like, because it's like I don't need the money. Me sitting on I thrive better when I'm broke. So for me, it's like getting secure, acting broke again. Yeah. Getting secure, acting broke again.
Yeah. When your back's against the wall, especially, man.
Right. Yeah. I just love it.
You're unstoppable.
And some people they can't operate like that. I mean, I've had more months in the past 2 years where I was trying to figure out where the money was coming from than I knew where it was coming from at the time.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that, man. It's the thing is though, like at first it's uncomfortable, and then you get so comfortable with that feeling of uncomfort, because you're like, bro, like I'll figure it out next month, man.
Right, right. Like, yeah, you don't care.
Yeah, it's crazy. No, it's crazy.
What do you say to people who see what we do, see what you do, and think it's all super easy? I mean, hey, if I look at it from the side, right? I mean, I just go knock on a couple doors. Somebody's gonna be willing to sell me a house for 50 what's called percent off the retail value. I just sign some papers, get the house. Just go throw some floors in there, throw some paint up there, and make a lot of money, right? Easy stuff, right?
It's super easy. No, I mean, I think the biggest thing, man, is you have to be willing to get into these businesses to not make money. Like, you got to be here for the education for a little bit, and I think, not that really answers your question, but I just think that's where people kind of mess it up. They just want to go out there and take massive action, and they think they need to be rewarded for their action.
Immediately.
Right? Like, immediately. Like, just because you're working don't mean you're going to make money. Like, that's the problem. Like, people are like, I'm going to go knock 10 doors. I deserve it now. Like, no, you don't deserve shit. You know what I mean? Like, no, you haven't earned anything. And a lot of times the people that come out there and have that, like, success out the gate, I see them fall off quick. Like, I'm glad it took me 9 months to do my first deal, because it was like, by the time that thing came, it was like, shit, I don't even care now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, on to the next one, and you kind of get through that. Like I said, like, there was a time where we closed on a house and I had to be in there when we got the keys for it. Now I'm like, we close on it. I'm like, all right, well, I'll get over there when I get there. You know what I mean? It just becomes, your normal always constantly changes. And you just got to be in it to just understand that it's going to take time. You got to be here for knowledge.
Yeah.
100%.
I think I have a new idea for how to close out the show, Boris.
What's up?
I think we can say a quote and see what their response is to it. I have a very interesting quote that you kind of mentioned right now when you said about our standard of normal changes. There's a interesting quote that our lender told us about. It's called a luxury once realized becomes a necessity. What do you think about that?
A luxury once realized becomes a necessity.
Yeah.
Once realized becomes a necessity. Yeah, I mean,
Makes sense for you.
Yeah. So I mean, pretty much it's like you said, you create that new normal, and like that's just what the new normal is, right? And I think that's what gets you. Like winning is more fun than fun is fun.
Dude, I've literally posted that on my story before.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's what happens. Is like once you get a taste of it, it's like a shark, and it smells blood, right? And it's like once you've done it, right? And once you've done it once, you're like, I could never go back.
Yeah.
And that's why you talk to people like, you seem so confident, like you ain't even made it yet. And I'm like, no, but I know that I will because I'm too dedicated now. Yeah. I've done too much. I've succeeded too many times. It's never going to go backwards.
You've tasted it already.
Right. You're right. It's like no matter what happens. And once you get that knowledge, you can't go back, right? Yeah. Like it took me 8 months to get my first deal, and then I was with a partner for about a year and a half. We split up, and I had to rebuild our whole company, and I had a deal in 25 days. No marketing, no systems, like no nothing. Just restarted from the ground, and I did it in 25 days. That's why this shit's so powerful. Like you said, like it becomes a necessity at that point because you can't unlearn it. Right? Like where you guys are at. If I told you to go throw everything out the window, you had no contacts. Like you see the Undercover Billionaire.
Love that
right?
show.
Yeah,
you see that, you're like, dude, it makes so much sense. Like you just have that confidence, that swagger, that understanding of just everything. So like it does become that new normal.
Did you see when Grant Cardone did it?
Yeah, dude.
He's a boss, dude.
Dude, he is a boss, man.
But thing is, the people that aren't in the space we're in, all the comments I see are like, "Oh, this is fake. Oh, this is set up. Oh, you know."
But it's actually easy. Yeah. Like I seriously think, like I was even telling you before we started that my fiance wants to, she wants to move away, right? She's like, "Let's go somewhere else," and I'm like, "Nah, I don't want to. I've worked so hard to get to where we're at." Yeah. But at the same time, I'm like, you could throw me somewhere, and I know I'd figure it out in a few months. I just don't want to have to.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable.
Right.
100%. No, for sure, dude. But let's close off this podcast, man. I liked having you on here. I appreciate your time.
I appreciate you guys.
And I hope that helps some people.
Last question for you, man. What do you think the how it's called market's heading? Couple months, couple years.
Yeah, I think we're probably good till 23, 24. I don't see interest rates climbing much. If they do, they might climb a little bit, and I think that'll kind of readjust things. But I think things are going to stay pretty steady, especially in hot markets like where we're at. Like Columbus is growing, and you look back on the bubble that busted, back in the day, that wasn't based off of supply and demand. That was based off lending. That was based off the banks, right? So today's market, supply and demand is very prevalent. Yeah. Right? There's a lot of demand, not a lot of supply. So I just don't see that changing too much. I think things are going to keep going up. I eventually see Columbus being like a Chicago, New York areas where like your average house sale is going to be $250,000, $300,000 for these little 900 square foot Cape Cods.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yep.
But yeah, no, for sure.
Nice, man.
We think the same thing. But yeah, man, thanks for being here. And yeah, I'm looking forward to having you on again sometime.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
You can take away everything that I ever worked for. I'ma keep on pushing till I earn more. I won't never fall. Won't never break. Won't never crack. Won't never split. Won't never stop. Won't never lack. Won't never call it quits. Call it quits. Try to hold me back, but I'll always find my own way. 'Cause I am a beast that you won't tame. I won't never fall. Won't never break. Won't never crack. Won't never split. Won't never stop. Won't never lack. Won't never call it quits. Call it quits.